The opinions expressed in this program are not those of CISA 7 or Time Warner Cable.
What's your tomorrow?
Working collaboratively with our community partners, we are transforming public education with innovative solutions to address workforce needs and focus efforts to improve overall results from cradle to career. Below are just a few examples. In April 2015, the district announced the development of City Stadium Automotive at East High School. In October 2014, Baylink Manufacturing, a high-precision manufacturing learning lab, opened for business at West High School. In September 2014, the district opened the Leonardo da Vinci School for Gifted Learners, one of the first of its kind in Wisconsin. In 2013, the district partnered with the Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary and the University of Wisconsin Green Bay to offer a nature-based 4-year-old kindergarten program. In 2011, the district launched the East High School Fine Arts Institute, which enables students to study the arts under master teachers. The district has one of fewer than 300 worldwide authorized K-12 international baccalaureate programs, including the prestigious diploma program. Through our higher education partnerships, the district is able to offer over 80 opportunities for students to access college-level coursework with the potential to earn college credit. To continue this momentum, it is important that policymakers support the work of the district, the Green Bay community, and its business partners, including the Greater Green Bay Chamber of Commerce. To assist you in that effort, below is a list of the district's state budget priorities. Accountability. Remove the school accountability provisions from the budget and consider in separate legislation. Further discussion is warranted in light of the fact that the Senate and Assembly cannot come to agreement on their proposed school accountability bills. Note, we continue to support SB 1, which focuses on improvement and includes the current Wisconsin report card accountability ratings and not A through F grades, a single assessment, and no sanctions. In addition, non-fiscal items deserve a robust discussion given their policy implications. This should not be done in the budget process. Funding. Restore $150 per pupil aid for the 2015-16 school year. Adjust revenue limits to match inflation and adjust low revenue ceiling accordingly. Provide a modest increase in state aid for special education services. Provide increased funding to support existing English language learner programs to aid the district in serving its growing population of ELL students and families, 18.2% of the district. Vouchers and independent charter schools. The district opposes public tax dollars being redirected to fund private and religious schools. As such, the district's priorities are as follows. Remove the expansion to the statewide voucher program. However, if the program is expanded, the district asks that the legislature retain the current system in which voucher payments are funded through its own separate appropriation. In addition, we request a cap be placed on the voucher program to enable the district to meet its fiscal obligations and plan accordingly. Remove the statewide chartering board, which could authorize charters. This budget provision removes local control from publicly elected school boards and eliminates community oversight of public tax dollars. A strong Wisconsin economy and democracy are dependent on having a strong public education system. The Wisconsin Constitution states that our public education system must provide a free and equitable education for all Wisconsin students. At a time when our state faces financial difficulties, it is even more vital that as a state we invest in all of Wisconsin's children. They deserve to be our priority, every child, every day. Sincerely, signed by all 7 members of the Green Bay Public School Board Education and Superintendent Michelle Langenfeld.
Anybody have any comments before we vote? Chris?
Yes, I think the letter certainly states very well the position of the board administration. At times, I wonder if they forget we're elected officials here. We're not employees. We're not part of a union. We're elected by the public to run the schools. But what amazes me, I think you'd ask, could ask every legislator at the state level, are you happy with the way the federal government dictates things to you? And I think I know the answer, and that would be no.
Right.
Well, I'm not really happy with the way they've been dictating things to us as elected officials on what our responsibilities are. They tend to have made it much more difficult to operate quality schools, and I'm sure that's my opinion on that last part. Thank you.
And I guess I would say that I think legislators are hearing us. I think we've been very active in meeting with legislators, talking to them, inviting them into our district, and I think I can say that there is no district that Green Bay is probably the most active school district in the state in advocating for public education.
All right, we'll take a vote. Sandy, oh, there she is. Used to you being further down the table.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Thank you, Mike, for taking charge and for the, I know we had a few staff people that were helping us with that letter too, so it was a group effort. All right,
And that's it.
next we'll entertain these motions one by one.
I move that the IEI Construction be awarded the bid for general construction HVAC renovation work at Washington Middle School in the amount of $3,900,000 as presented be approved.
Second. This is work that is part of the April 2014 referendum. This motion, along with the following two, are for Washington. The work will begin as soon as school's out. Part of the work will be done this summer. We'll be doing some work throughout the school year as possible, and then finishing the work in summer of 2016. The bids have come in within the budgeted amount for the project.
Any questions? All right, Sandy?
Blacka?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that Reek Merrill be awarded the bid for plumbing renovation work at Washington Middle School in the amount of $64,900 as presented be approved.
Seconded.
Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that Vanden Heuvel Electric be awarded the bid for electrical renovation work at Washington Middle School in the amount of $910,750 as presented. Be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that Myron Construction be awarded the bid for general construction and plumbing renovation work at Franklin Middle School in the amount of $1,050,725 as presented. Be approved.
Second.
Do you wanna-
And then similar to Washington, these are the bids for Franklin Middle School. Again, these were the referendum projects from April 2014. The majority of work at Franklin will include HVAC updates along with window replacement. And again, the work will begin this summer. Because of the size of this project, similar to Washington, we'll be working on it this summer, continuing some work during the school year and finishing it up in the summer of 2016. And again, the bids are within the budgeted amount.
Sandy?
Wagner?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that B&P Mechanical be awarded the bid for HVAC renovation work at Franklin Middle School in the amount of $3,650,000 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Blackout?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that Elan Electric be awarded the bid for electrical renovation work at Franklin Middle School in the amount of $519,734 as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Okay, carried 7-0. Go ahead, Mike.
Mike, and maybe I missed that. When will this work, what's our timetable for all of this work being done?
At the two middle schools, Franklin and Washington, we are looking at trying to complete it by the fall of 2016, along with Fort Howard. The reason Fort Howard also will go over 2 summers is because of the extended school year there. We cannot start the project until July. The other 3 elementary schools that we've already bid out, Nicolay Chapel and Tank, will be done this summer and should be complete in fall.
Okay, because you know it'll be 90 on the first day of school.
I know.
So that'll be nice for staff and students.
It does my heart good to see us to this point with Washington.
Yep, a long time
And
coming,
Franklin,
those
yeah.
schools.
All right, we'll move on to the next motion.
I move that the employment of Jeremy Wildenberg as Transportation Office Manager, 12 months at the district office, effective July 1st, 2015, as presented, be approved.
Second.
I don't think Jeremy was able to be
Okay.
here. He's a teacher at Greenville Elementary in Greenville, Wisconsin right now, but he has a unique background. He comes with quite a few years of working in the military and worked in he speaks Arabic and he worked in languages. And he recently completed a master's degree in leadership development and education.
Sandy?
Becker?
Right.
Blackout?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that the
Right.
one, I'm sorry.
You might want to try now, you can get into Neptune.
I can't get in though, I'm locked out.
You tried one time too many.
Ooh, Neptune is up.
Yeah.
Their parent host, their ISP host had an outage,
Okay. I got in
but they
Neptune.
don't anymore.
All right.
This is the message I guess. Okay, anyway, I'll move over. You do the name over there? Just take it.
Well, but Diane has to be
Thanks.
part of this one.
Oh, that's right. Why don't we, can I make a motion to reorder?
Sure. You want me to, I move to reorder.
The technology after PK literacy while Diane fixes my computer.
So the irony of getting technology,
Yeah.
be able to discuss technology, I get that. Okay.
All right.
All right, so I'm gonna move on to 10. I move that the 1.0 FTE coordinator.
Actually, technically, we should.
Technically, we
Oh,
should, yeah, I
sorry.
was gonna say.
Go ahead.
Is there a second
Chair
for
could,
that?
second, you could ask unanimous consent.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed? All right, go ahead, Katie.
Okay, where was I? Okay, 10. I move that the 1.0 FTE coordinator of PK-12 literacy position, 12 months, at salary group 11, and that the associated job description as presented be approved.
Second.
This position comes to you for 2 reasons. One, as a result of a recent retirement, we'd like to update the job description. And secondly, we're recommending that this position be moved into the exempt professional status. And that would provide us greater flexibility over a 12-month period of time. So update to the job description, then also moving it from the teacher unit to the exempt status is the reason why it's here. We apologize that it's coming to you at this session. We want to be able to get out to the market and to be able to post the position as soon as possible. And I should also, as full disclosure, say that there was a duplication on number 12 and number 13 on the bullet points, and we will remove number 13 on that job description. So I apologize about that.
Any questions? Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I'll move the consent items as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Wagner? Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
And now,
Why don't we go ahead?
I'm on. Okay. So I move that the 1.0 FTE Director of Technology position, 12 months at salary group 5, and that the associated job description as presented be approved.
Second.
Did you want to say anything, or?
Certainly. We have been through 2 full rounds of interviewing cycles, looking for first a network operations manager, then a director of technology operations and infrastructure. We started this process way back in December, and now it's May. And we have not found somebody who has experience within the school setting. You might say, not that important, but I am finding that it is regarding understanding the school environment, the needs, the differentiation that's needed, the escalation regarding testing and, some of the high stakes things that we have going on. And so we worked with a consultant, and we have pulled out very school-specific items as well regarding operating within the school environment, supervision, experience within the technical fields, knowing how to write proposals and request for proposals, and that is the job description you see before you this evening. This is a good time for us to be posting this because May is usually the time when people are looking for other opportunities. And the technology leadership community is a small group within the state of Wisconsin. So you know how that goes when there's movement from one place, then there's a trickle-down effect through many other different school districts. But we felt that this was an opportune time to post and look for somebody with director experience in the school system already.
Any questions?
This is a replacement position.
This is a replacement, yes, not an additional.
All right, Sandy?
Wagner?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Dorf?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the special board meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then we will move right into our regular work session meeting. I'm joined at the table, all 7 board members are present. We're joined by members of the cabinet, 2 Intercity Student Council members, Lokeen Chang from Preble and Morgan Sterry from Southwest. And also to my left, Dr. Michelle Langenfeld, our superintendent, and Sandy Heller, our board secretary. First, we'll begin with the public forum, which is a time for members of the community to present any matters of concern. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to the teaching and learning work session, which will be facilitated by Katie Maloney.
Thank you, Brenda. We have 6 discussion items. The first one is the elementary science content and course essential documents.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and the Green Bay community. As the ladies get settled in here, I'll provide just a quick little introduction. From the elementary side, we continue to work on updating our content or course essential documents, which turns out to be the curriculum guides that our teachers will use to create their units of study. This is an ongoing process for us. The two that you'll hear first will be from elementary perspective, and I'll introduce the first one. We're going to bring you the elementary science content course essential documents. I'll allow Nancy Chartier, the Director of Teaching and Learning for Elementary, to introduce her team that she has with her today.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity to celebrate the completion of our content essential documents for pre-K 5 elementary curriculum. And our science constituent here tonight and curriculum coordinator is Amanda Herlap. And then our social studies curriculum coordinator is Angie Lacombe. And so, Amanda,
yep.
who
Science
first?
first, please.
This year I had the privilege to work with approximately 40 teachers to create science content essential documents. This group of teachers represented all grade level classroom teachers, including those with bilingual and special education classrooms. The process of completing the content essential documents mirrored an embedded professional learning opportunity for teachers. Teachers were able to think deeply and discuss grade level content over the course of 2 to 3 days as they worked to identify clear and measurable evidence outcomes on the content essential documents using the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards as the basis for these documents. The Next Generation Science Standards were a valuable resource for teams to discuss and use. Teachers found that these documents offered a pathway for updating the current Wisconsin Model Academic Standards. One benefit for teachers was that the Next Generation Science Standards offered more specific student outcomes at each grade level and in the areas of physical science, life and environmental science, and earth and space science. In addition, the Next Generation Science Standards offered a structure for embedding engineering throughout the curriculum. The Next Generation Science Standards, in alignment with the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, effectively updated the science curriculum for elementary. As the course overview illustrates, the content essential documents provide the opportunity for students to think and act like scientists and engineers. Skills such as analyzing and interpreting data, designing solutions, and engaging in argument from evidence will allow students to be successful within and outside the classroom. Currently, our team is working with 6 building sites within the district to use the content essential documents to design units of study. These units of study integrate science, social studies, English language arts, and math. Teachers have shared that the content essential documents make clear what students should know and be able to do. Teachers throughout the sites have spoken positively regarding the use of the content essential documents.
Prior to turning over to questions for this one, I just would like to mention that the governance request is to approve the science curriculum and the content or course essential documents for PK through 5. We're not asking for any additional budgetary considerations for that because it has been job embedded, and that's what we want to continue to build upon. So you won't see resources or materials associated with this one. It's really the curriculum that is being updated.
Questions?
I should say, sorry, much like you saw this year around our middle school math process where we brought you the course essential documents, and then at another point when it came to the team identifying the resources, we would bring back that budget request at that point. So.
Okay, so there is no free curriculum.
Not yet.
All right, that's okay. Brenda.
So 6 schools are using this, just so I understand what you I think I heard you say. 6 schools are currently using content essential document, course essential documents to create units of study, and then will those units of study become part of the curriculum for the rest of the schools, or how is that
It's
going to work?
one group at each of those schools, so it's not the entire school.
Okay.
So it's at Langley,
At each
it's
grade
actually
level?
one, like for the whole building. So at one school we have 2 grade levels, but most of the other schools have just 1 grade level that worked on. And it really was just for us to field test the unit design. In the future, each collaborative learning team would design their own integrated unit of study using the content essential documents. So they're not going to be a unit that the whole district will use.
So they're, okay.
But could it? I mean, if somebody
Yes.
designs an awesome one and everybody wants to use it?
Yeah,
then
we're
that's-
hoping to have exemplar units that could be shared, and then teachers could tap into those for a resource to get ideas.
How did you pick the grade levels?
By people who were interested. And we did
Okay.
try to have a representation across, we have PK, second grade, third grade, and then a 4 or 5.
Okay.
And did the schools participate voluntarily, or is it possible for us to get a list? Could you just have Sandy beam us a list of the schools
Sure.
that participated in
Yes.
grade levels, just to kind of see what, if that's not a real difficult thing to do?
That's a good
question too.
My question on the integrated units, interdisciplinary units, can you describe the logistics for that? Is that something that would run during the course of an entire day, a week? Can you describe that for me a little bit?
Sure. So the integrated unit would last over the course of 4 to 6 weeks. And the work that we've done so far, we've based the theme or the topic of the unit on a science or social studies topic, and then embedded the math and ELA standards and curriculum into that unit. So it's connecting for students across the day a common theme or topic.
And does that carry over then to the ELA work that okay.
Yep.
Well, actually, the ELA and math skills are still taught as they have always been. And then the concepts are taught because we're teaching children how to use those skills. We're teaching children the ELA skills and math skills that are going to be necessary to do science. And so then they're all encompassed together. So they really come parallel, and then they overlap as soon as the children build enough knowledge base to meet the standard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Michelle?
Brenda's first.
Sorry,
Actually,
Brenda.
Chris was before all of us, if we want to be technical.
Chris, someone speak.
I'm not sure I agree with that statement, but
All right.
very kind of you. This is sort of tangent to all of this. What's the relationship with all of this relative to the Einstein Project and what we're doing in developing our curriculum, where we're getting materials?
So we have been working with the Einstein Project throughout the course of the school year around making sure that our new curriculum aligns with the kits that we are using from Einstein. So we have made some adjustments for next year so that the teachers at the grade level are teaching kits that align with the new curriculum in the content essential documents.
And may I ask a follow-up question? We had input into the Einstein group before they purchased those materials?
Yes, yeah, we have been working with them throughout the entire year, yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We might also add that our kindergarten selection with the Einstein, we're actually going to be the new next-gen science kits. Our kindergarten staff will have exposure to, and actually will be using. Both of them are totally aligned. They're totally aligned to the next gen, and we will be implementing them next year. They'll be training on them this summer.
Right now, Brenda, and then Michelle.
Question, it occurred to me while I was reading these standards that it seems like it's sort of taking that next step to having a little more rigor in science at the elementary level. And so our elementary teachers are asked to be able to teach, social studies, science, math, reading, all those kinds of things. And especially as you get up into the upper 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, how are we supporting teachers for whom science is not necessarily their strongest subject? How are we supporting them to be able to take that next step to providing that rigor in science?
And I think.
And I guess the same would be true with social studies, if you can answer the question on both sides of that.
And that's one of the reasons why tonight we're not presenting a budget for you and an adoption of any additional resources, is because we are conducting field tests, and some of the products and resources that are available are very supportive of teachers in teaching the next gen science standards. They're very performance-based outcome, and of course, we're using backwards design. One of the products that we're looking at really does scaffold both the teacher's learning and the student learning at the same time. And it ready-made units made by teachers for teachers, and then all the resources that are embedded right within this technology, this piece of technology. And so we've been working with technology as we move forward to make sure that our science and social studies integrations in the future include the T in STEM, which is technology, and so that we use it in a purposeful and meaningful way. So that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking.
As I look at and think about the course essential documents that we're proposing that the board adopt, would it be accurate to say that while they are aligned to next generation standards, science standards, that is not what the board is adopting? What they're adopting are the Green Bay Area Public School course essential documents.
That is accurate.
Would that be accurate?
That
Thank
they
you.
are aligned. The Wisconsin standards, we've aligned and have done a crosswalk with the Wisconsin academic standards and the next gen standards, and they masterfully produced the Green Bay Area School District curriculum documents.
And that's what the teachers, the 40 teachers you gathered together. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I guess that last comment, if I may, begs the question. With our Green Bay standards, is it fair to say, well, I'll let you say it, do they meet, surpass, or are they below any of the national standards, be they from any science institute or Science Teachers Association or whatnot?
I'm confident in saying that they're equivalent to the national standards and exceed the current Wisconsin academic standards.
At least equal, not better?
Well, because
I don't
the
mean to
national...
press this in answer.
Like any set of standards, it's what you do with them that makes them better. And so, absolutely, they're very much in line with the national standards. And this is a very aggressive change. So I see over time adding additional rigor, but I think this is a nice pace for us to move forward with our science curriculum at this time.
Well, that begs another question for me. If I may, if you'd humor me, if you're not sure of this response, that's fine. In terms of our national standards, are there world standards, and if so, how do we compare to world standards in science? We've been knocked through the years about not being as aggressive or rigorous as perhaps some other countries.
Well, that is the next generation science standards are the national standards, or the standards that have been adopted at a national level by multiple organizations and school districts. The state of Wisconsin has not adopted the next gen standards as state standards. And so we are working with the Wisconsin state standards and have aligned the new national standards to create our Green Bay.
You're saying what's above?
Thank you. How does,
Yes.
I mean, I appreciate what you say there, but do you know how our national standards compare with standards in other parts of the world? Or are there world standards? I don't know.
Yeah, I think from what the team looked at, I don't know that we know that, but we certainly can research it. I don't think that they used anything that are international or one of these standards, correct?
That's the next.
The next gen is the biggest that we're aware of, but we certainly can do a little bit more digging. I think it's a very apparent topic of conversation, and one that in terms of how we support the teachers through increased rigor is really at the forefront of the work that the teams will continue to do.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Next meeting. Thank you very much. And now the elementary social studies content course essential documents.
This is just second up. I'll go ahead and turn it right over to Angie, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
So just like the science content essential document writing, we worked with approximately 40 teachers to work over 2 to 3 days to create the social studies content essential documents. In order to create those documents, teams of teachers spent time reacquainting themselves with the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards. And these standards that were written in 1998 became the base of the content essential documents. However, additionally, we use the College Career and Civic Life Framework as a valuable resource for teams to discuss and use. Teachers found that this framework offered a pathway for updating the current Wisconsin Model Academic Standards. One benefit for teachers was that the College, Career, and Civic Life framework offered more specific indicators of student learning in the areas of geography, economics, history, and civics. Those indicators, coupled with the performance standards within the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, effectively updated the social studies curriculum. As the course overview illustrates, the content essential documents include 21st century skills such as critical thinking and collaboration. Additionally, literacy is embedded within the content essential documents for social studies, and examples such as using and analyzing historical resources to support thinking. Our hope is that these skills will support students as they become active participants in their communities.
So again, just to echo the same piece around the governance request, at this point we're asking the board to consider approval of the social studies curriculum and course essential documents with the knowledge that as resources become field tested, that we bring back a budget request at that point.
Questions or comments? Looks good. If you could do the same thing and allow Sandy to share the
Yeah,
names
we're
and the
actually
skills.
partnering together, so the schools, all the schools are the same. As we go through the process, we incorporate ELA, math,
Okay.
science, and social studies with those
Okay.
teams.
Okay, great. All right. Hearing nothing else, we'll move that forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next discussion is the personal financial literacy curriculum and resources.
As Mike and Lisa come to the table, I'll just go ahead and introduce this piece. Personal financial literacy, as you know, is a Green Bay Area Public School District graduation requirement. So we require that students pass the test or else pass the class. So there's some background provided in the memo that you received, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mike Freeze, the Director of Teaching Learning for Secondary, to provide you an overview of this process as well.
Thanks, Mr. Smith. Thanks, everybody, for the opportunity to present to you tonight. Over the past couple of years, Lisa Johnson has been working with the educators that teach the PFL course on a variety of aspects related to the course. For instance, the original impetus to kind of dig back in was the common semester exam that had traditionally been given in a paper pencil format. Over the past couple of years, they've worked on upgrading that, making it more technology-based. And then that sort of then got parlayed into let's tackle the course itself and let's really look at, based on the new standards that are out there, how this course overall might be looked at. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Lisa.
So since the last personal financial literacy revision in 2009, new standards have been released in the career and technical area that also encompass financial literacy. So the new curriculum was written on the model academic standards for personal financial literacy and the new CTE standards. So I met with teachers to create the new course essential documents. In addition to the content change, a new test out was written to correspond to the new course curriculum. Currently, the test out proficiency score remains at 70%, as it has in the past. The teacher committee has recommended the purchase of personal financial literacy simulation software instead of a textbook itself. The benefits of the simulation is that it's updated regularly and constantly changes as our society and financial literacy changes as well. So we're not having to wait for those changes because it can be a pretty fluent area. In addition, we're requesting professional learning follow-up next year to continue working with the team on instructional unit planning in the context of a professional learning community framework. So the governance request is that we're requesting the curriculum, resources, and professional learning totaling $11,500.
Questions or comments? Mike?
Well, how many students test out this course, and how many who try to test out are successful? And I mean, I assume,
going to ask that question.
And I assume students do this if they think they have knowledge of that to allow them to take another course that they'd like to take.
Yep. So there's a packet that they get, and they can also check out some resources to help them study. This school year, we had 81 students that attempted the test, and 12 passed. So about 15% passed the actual test itself.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Not that
Yeah.
easy.
We raised the bar.
It's far more rigorous.
Well,
that is good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that they.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in the course itself that the kids really do have to know that we cover in there.
Okay.
So just a bit of history. We looked at PFL in our district historically to see what has come before the board prior to this session, and there's a belief by our personal financial literacy teachers that the course is so valuable that there's concern over the testing opportunities.
Yeah.
And we also know, and we knew in advance of changing the grading scale, that the pass rate, not proficiency score, was going to 60%. We proactively communicated out to all the students that the proficiency rate would still remain at 70. And we kept it that way because the previous records indicated that the group wanted to increase it to 80% proficiency, if that, I believe, was the history. So we felt very comfortable by communicating out 70% as a proficiency range versus a pass-fail rate. And we had a few communication pieces that we had to work through people, but for the most part, I think folks understood that. And we, just like anything, will continue to evaluate it. We believe that the school board believes that this element of learning is important and want to continue to preserve that, but certainly we'll always keep eyes on the trends in how kids are performing throughout the course. So I apologize, but I thought that was important from a contextual standpoint as well.
Celestine and then Chris.
So you said that there were some updates that are provided with the software that basically flow with changes in financial products.
Yeah, like tax rates and all that stuff, yeah.
Tax rates. So yeah, I was going to say, give me an example of an update.
So it within the actual software, it talks about like tax rate percentages, like averages of like percentages on a savings account interest. Like, you know, they'll take a look at that on an average year and update it. It's a web-based software, so it's very easy for them to update that in that software itself, which is one of the advantages.
Okay. And then tell me a little bit about, so I see it's interesting when I see risk management and methods to minimize the risk of loss. I go right to business risk instead of personal risk, but so tell me a little bit about evaluating credit products and services. What kinds of topics do the teachers cover?
So under evaluating credit products and services, they would evaluate like different credit cards and compare and contrast them. It could be loans that they would look at, the different credits of loans. They look at their credit score and how that would affect the interest rate that they would get on different things as well. So it kind of all encompasses anything that you would deal with in terms of
Go ahead, Mike. What were you going to say?
Also, to elaborate further, this is a course overview, so in the content essential documents that spell out further what students need to know and be able to do, and then the staff also, the team provided key vocabulary terms as well as other evidence outcomes, things such as predatory lending, things of that nature exist in the documents. So staff are mindful of the spectrum of backgrounds, contexts, and opportunities youngsters in the classroom might be exposed to and would know, how to be mindful of all those.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really big deal. Actually, Wisconsin has one of the most predatory lending environments in the country, unfortunately, and so just that's exactly where I was going. Right. Good.
I didn't realize that about Wisconsin. It's sort of sad to hear. So payday loans is covered under that, I assume. Yeah, I mean, obviously things like that, they could go to a local payday loan place and find out what they're doing. To have. Okay. My question was, in a classroom, if I got 70% on a test, what grade would that be?
C minus.
C.
So is that the equivalent to what we're letting kids pass this test for this class with, the C minus? Is that? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I mean, if you think about it, if so, that's.
Yes, and I think the piece that as we tried to explain that the difference between the test out opportunity and then a grading scale, is that the test out opportunity doesn't garner you credit or a grade, and therefore it's not intended to equate exactly with a grading scale that the course of a semester, all the teaching learning that went in. That being said, as Mr. Smith mentioned, we're very interested in determining long-term our current practice relative to the test out.
Well, as you think of it, I appreciate you looking at that. Somewhat problematic to me. I could maybe understand that a little bit better if indeed there were certain items in the test that have to be passed. Certain key items, and not just a blanket 70%. So, thank you.
That's a good insight, especially as they've worked through the test, they've identified those essential outcomes. So that would be more easier to do now than it would be previously the way that the test was written.
So kind of like a gateway approach, almost like if you don't get through this gateway, then you haven't demonstrated a proficiency.
Yeah, like if you can't calculate interest, or at least know the difference between fixed, you know, what interest is, what an APR is, you know, yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Looking.
Well, I'll just add that a 70 is a C- right now on grading scale. So, but when I was in sophomore year, I planned to test out PFL, but because of circumstances I couldn't, so I actually took the course. And I actually learned a lot of things that I had no idea, like taxes. I just followed my taxes this year. That helped a lot. The 1040 easy. Yeah, he had my teacher had us fill it out. It was there's a lot of things that you can't learn from doing the test out, and I think that it's unfortunate because a lot of students want to test out, and you don't. We had like this one unit on credit cards. I actually looked up credit cards and APR rates, and then it's just really. I would probably never learned it if I test out. It's just common, but it's really helpful.
Thank you.
And you will be slammed with credit card applications as you
First
from high school to
your orientation packet.
Yes, they're going to have booths.
And then refused over and over. It's interesting.
Right. They're very persistent.
Yeah.
So be careful. Andrew.
I guess my question is, how can to be honest, and I'm not disputing that it's a good course. I think it's a good course that covers important things, and I think the majority of people are probably better off with the class than testing out. But why would, if the test is done correctly and someone tests out of it, what is its shortcoming? Because you would have demonstrated knowledge of 70% of the course material, right? So that's why I don't get what the shortage. If I taught PFL, I would have a vested interest in, naturally. But I guess that's what I'm wondering. Why would anything be lacking if someone tested out, if the test covers enough things? I mean, the 1040 EZ form is not terribly difficult to figure out if you're studying on your own. There's probably other things in there that are much more complicated, and it's probably very good for most students to do a 1040 EZ form or a sample one in a class. I wanted to ask about how many people have been availing themselves of the test out, and what kind of pass rate has there been?
Mike had asked that. That's what Mike had just asked. It's the same question Mike asked.
So 15% pass rate is
15.
Yep.
And it was like 81 last year. 81 attempted.
81 attempted. So 12 passed.
Okay, so and that's out of
Well, how many kids?
6,000 students? No. 1,500.
No, well, it would apply to.
Yeah.
1,500 students.
Well, you can take it any time in high school.
You can take it any time in high school.
6,000 students, I was right. Yeah.
But I guess I'm curious as to why the pass rate is so low. I mean, people know what to study, right?
Well, not all kids take advantage of that. I think that.
I see. Some people just.
Some kids think they can just take it and they take it.
I'll just shot in the dark, and if they pass.
Yeah, I mean, plus consumer protection laws, types of taxes, risk management, the difference between a bond and a mutual fund. I mean, this is actually, in my opinion, this is arcane
stuff for someone unless they actually take 6 months to study that before they take the test. For a teenager, I think that's arcane. And you know what? That's a good thing. It's arcane. They should come and study. Take the class.
I'll never know, because when I did it, you had to take it your junior year, and it was the year before I could take it. It was only taken by one person. It was test out was canceled for the year that I could have taken, and then it was resumed and stayed forever after that year. So I'll never know.
All right. Is this available online? I mean, if someone wanted to take the course, but could they take it online rather than?
course?
Yeah.
So we have a local section that we run online in the summer session. We ran it last year for the first time, and we'll be running opportunity this summer as well online. And if for some reason there's a scheduling challenge or something, the Wisconsin eSchool Network that we work with as a consortium that offers courseware, they've been in the process of trying to update what they make available relative to personal financial literacy throughout the course of the year. So they've kind of been in a transition phase. So I don't know if their new course is fully approved yet that would be potentially available from our online opportunities.
Okay. Okay. Michelle, thank you.
As you think about the course itself and why take the course, why online, do you bring in practitioners who have firsthand stories to tell about everything? When Celestine, for example, spoke about predatory loans, I wasn't aware of that either, and I think that as we look at our own students, it's as risky as the credit cards out there. So do you bring in folks like that who can tell stories that students will never forget?
Yeah, I know most of our teachers do bring in professionals from the community at different times throughout the course itself to bring in that connection to the actual what's happening out there in the world.
This might date myself, but I had a wise principal back in the day who actually asked me to teach personal financial literacy as a social studies teacher. So yes, you many of those teachers, remember PFL can be taught by both social studies or business ed teachers. So many of those teachers find resources in the community as really that practical application opportunity, and it turns out to be a nice team approach. Absolutely.
That's good. Yeah, and I didn't know Mark worked for you.
He missed the joke.
Brenda?
Just a quick question. This is all the resources that we're approving. That's the most, the best deal on curriculum
Best deal.
I've ever
I know
seen.
there's a lot out there that is, and our teachers are very technology embracive in this particular course, and so they're really taking advantage of those things.
So there is no textbook anymore.
No,
for
they
this
have
class.
decided to go
To
away
do
with the
the
textbook, and it will be
online
all online
resources
resources
as well.
that they will be utilizing.
Because this is the entire student body that for $11,000. That's
Yeah,
pretty
it's the
good.
best
It
deal.
is, it is.
Good deal.
We like these. Any other questions?
I have a
Oh, go ahead.
How will you measure that that it's working as you move forward with this new, the expenditure? How will you evaluate the success of this? Because you're going to put a new resource and use of resources online. How will we know? It's not a huge investment, but the flip side is, what will kids gain or not gain by going this route?
So we, as part of the curriculum process, we wrote benchmark assessments, which is based upon the content essential documents of what we want the kids to know in the course. So that will help us to monitor how our kids are progressing towards making it a guaranteed and viable curriculum.
Excellent, thank you.
Chris?
If I may, one last thing. Do you cover in there student loans?
That's a good question.
And I guess beyond that, it seems to me that'd be terribly important nowadays.
They cover
A
all
lot
the
of youngsters get loans, they don't really realize what they're getting into, how to cruise. The second thing would be
College loans.
College loans.
College loans.
Yeah,
We'll
I'm
double
sorry.
check.
I'll double check on that. I
should be
do think
part
a
of
lot of
that.
teachers touch on it, but I think it's a general loan category. It may not call that out, but we'll double check.
Well, they need to learn how to read the fine print. And,
Yes, there's all different kinds of student loans, too.
Right.
It's all part of it. The superintendent mentioned about bringing people from the outside in. I would guess in any faculty, you could probably find folks that could say, the professional's one thing in my mind. I think it's powerful to bring in somebody who's can give their story, how they really got hooked. And I would guess in any staff or even around this table, there are people that have done some things not the best way financially, and they learn the hard way. And, you know, sometimes those stories have more impact with kids.
You know, I mean, that's the other thing too. Now, working at Advance, if anyone would just ask me, I know bankers who would love to come in and talk to students. They'd love that. I know minority bankers too who'd love to come in and talk to students. So I think that's important. Whoever said, did you say that? About bringing people in?
Michelle
No,
said
Michelle
that.
said that.
Michelle
right.
said
Yeah.
that. No, that's fine. But your point is well taken too, Chris, because I mean, I know someone who thought as long as she had checks in the book, she could write them. I mean, that's a reality.
That's not good.
It's not good. It's not good. It catches, it was not-
Negative, you know, the red.
It's not one of
the
those situations where I'm really talking
parentheses.
about myself, but, I mean, that's the reality out there. You're right. I mean, people,
They're out there.
it's true.
People would love to come and talk to students.
Any other true confessions, or shall we move on? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, agri-science curriculum, course approvals, resource and transcribed credits.
Thank you. Joining me at the table is Curriculum Coordinator Julie Rabideau. Before she speaks, just a brief overview and a reminder that earlier this school year we did bring forward some equivalency course pieces out of agri-science, and this addresses the remainder of the department curriculum. I would say that the updating and development of our agri-science curriculum, including this revised scope and sequence for courses between middle and high school level, and the clarification we're seeking to provide of pathways within the program, began a number of years ago. It's been a multi-year process. Our agri-science teacher team is small across the district. We've got 5 members, 3 high school, 2 middle school, and they've been really very dedicated to the task. They have worked with a variety of curriculum coordinators and folks in teaching and learning throughout the process to make sure that the courses, the curriculum, and the resources that they're looking at are modernized and in line with where we'd like to go as a district. At the heart of this work has been understanding that one huge intention with our agri-science curriculum is to better understand labor market trends and post-secondary opportunities that exist within agri-science fields of study. That's been very important to the group. So I'll turn it over to Julie to talk a little bit about this past year and the culminating work of their efforts.
Teaching and Learning worked with all 5 ag teachers, 3 high school and 2 middle school, to develop new courses and restructure existing courses to meet the current national and state agri-science standards, as well as our state's career and technical standards. Through the process of unpacking the standards, the course overviews and the content essential documents were created. Based on this information, the staff made an informative decision as to the best pathway for our students. In Appendix C, you will see the pathways we developed for the new courses. These do not include the other courses that we have. Those courses, since I didn't put them on there since we didn't redo them, but they include natural resource path, as well as other courses that connect with other content areas. Our governance request is for resources and professional learning, as well as the adoption of these courses.
Andrew.
So you're highlighting here just the change courses?
Yes, I do have, if you want to see the full pathway, I do have those.
I guess I'm just curious as to about how many total courses are there in middle and then in high school?
We'll pass that up.
Yeah. This is just the high school courses, though. We're not the middle school. The middle school has 4.
4.
These are just the, are they other?
Thank you. Does that show the equivalency ones too?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike finishes passing those out, one of the opportunities that we had this year in bringing to you the equivalence piece is in respect to the addition of that third science credit. So that's really been, I think, a welcome addition for our ag science teacher, and also in the area of family and consumer education as well.
Oh, no, this is.
I'm out of practice with passing things out during this. I mean, what
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Brenda?
When I was reading through the course descriptions, the one for landscape, floriculture, and greenhouse management, when I read that, are these the course descriptions that go into the course description book?
No.
No.
They are not.
Okay.
We are in the process of trying to coordinate all course descriptions to be similar or the same.
Okay, because when I read that, the description didn't seem to match the title of the course.
Okay.
But then when I went over to the course essential documents and looked at what's covered in the course, it covers all of those things.
Okay.
But it just seemed, if this were something that we're in, because it just seems to be missing the, and I don't, this isn't my area of expertise, so I'm not always quite sure, but it just seemed to be missing the landscape management piece of things and the floriculture, and it was more on greenhouse management or something. I don't know, it just, and again, I don't know much, so maybe it's in there and I just don't see it, but that was just my first impression reading
thank you.
through.
We'll review that. Because we do glean what goes into the course description book from this
that,
piece. We,
yeah.
we have to meet a certain number of characters available in the course description book, but we would pull it in part from here, so.
In the course overview, it says uses of plants and landscaping, landscaping, value-added decision-making. So that is in there in the course overview.
In the other, yeah, and
In
I
the
saw
course
that in the
description.
other
So
one,
we'll
but it
add
just
it.
was missing,
Sure.
yeah, it was just missing in this
Thank
piece.
Ed?
Which courses have science equivalents?
They are, if you look in the second from the last column under high school, it says capstone courses, advanced plant science design, board approved, has already been approved.
Okay.
And then the capstone advanced veterinary and animal science.
Celestine?
I guess if you could explain to me why plants and animals are separated, and this is my question. Because, I mean, obviously, yeah, I get the differences between those two organisms, right?
All right.
However,
Feel good about things, go ahead.
but especially if you're talking about, a farm, or if you're talking about an area, a nature area, plants and animals are actually not separated. They're part of the same ecosystem, and they are interrelated and rely on each other.
So what you'll typically see is the standards categories that you pull from: an animal systems pathway, a plant systems pathway, the natural resources pathway, maybe a biotechnology pathway. They would serve as the primary standards in a course.
Okay.
Well, you would still have secondary references or connections between the topics, because obviously if you're talking about animals as your major emphasis, you're still discussing what
Plants.
you're using for
What do they eat?
what they're eating,
Besides
et cetera.
each other,
What's the
right.
environment that they would live within, et
Right.
cetera. It's more of the,
Okay.
the progression towards specialization and potential career pathway.
And as they did their common assessments, they did focus on, like, the animals, what they ate and the things that go into their diet, and the holistic versus the processed, and so they do connect.
Okay. And then I have one other question too about, I thought I heard you mention, Julie, labor market trends. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, you take a look at what's happening at post-secondary, what programs of study are they offering, so that your courses at the high school level lead to opportunities at either the technical college or the university system. So over the past few years, working in conjunction with Lori Peacock or Sarah Brame, Joe Brooker served as administrative co-chair with that group, as they launched in those first couple years to try to look at the current course offerings and the extent to which they would lead to a college career readiness pathway or not. They had to make some tough decisions. So you'll see that the courses that we paid particular attention to are ones that reflect programs of study kids can get into at the post-secondary level. What's really interesting is, we've been following also the state of opportunity reports coming through Gannett, media to see like who are they checking with? Well, they're checking with post-secondary and looking at labor market trends, and we're seeing additional things that we didn't spell out in this iteration, but we maintain open lines of communication with NWTC or Fox Valley Tech areas such as aquaponics, looking at aquaculture, also sustainable, the local sustainable agriculture, the small farmer as opposed to large farmers. We're kind of watching those trends as well, and we want to stay nimble enough with this group, being that it's a small group, that if an opportunity emerges in future years, we could come back around and say, we'd like to build that piece out possibly.
So that makes sense to me,
Yeah.
but that's not a labor market trend. That's looking at what post-secondary offers, and then making sure that I like the word nimble enough to have students be prepared to enter that track. It's not a labor market trend, though.
Right. Fair enough. Sure.
So, because I get a little nervous when we start talking about labor market trends, because we are not labor analysts.
Right. And,
So-
and that's where we do look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the employment and unemployment rates in our county and our area, to help inform what types of courses might set kids up for success at post-secondary and where the jobs might be, if you will, once they...
Yeah, but that makes me nervous because, BLS isn't broken out by a lot of different demographic categories. And so BLS has some really good data, but it's also, I think, lacking in some ways.
Okay.
And like I said, the most important thing is that when we look at that data as basically lay people, how that can reflect backward, because it's very backward looking, and then how you reflect forward is complicated. And I just want us to be cautious about, we can look backward easily, but looking forward I think is more problematic for us to do. But linking what we have with, NWTC at Fox Valley, that makes a lot of sense to me. And especially, I always say this, I'm always talking about our neighbors. We have a lot of Hmong farmers in this community in Ledgeview, in Wrightstown area. As a matter of fact, Wrightstown School District, their Asian population is growing. I think it's because of the farmers. So, that's, I think, a good link, and especially because these are people who these are family sustaining businesses, and they're doing it within their own culture because they grow things that are palatable to them. So yeah, like I said, I just want to put the brakes on the labor analysis that we probably don't have the capacity to do, but definitely linking with.
Well, we do have
You can look backwards, but forwards is a different story.
Right, but there is opportunity. Mike and I had the opportunity to attend the FFA banquet. And I was amazed at the rigor and the sophistication
definitely.
of the projects.
No question.
That were talked about. And the work experience that many of the students talked about, either in greenhouses, at veterinary clinics, things
No
like
doubt.
that. So I think in that regard, it's a great opportunity for students who want to explore, just like manufacturing.
And I
people
think
wanna
that kids
explore.
should do things that are interesting to them, because you never know where that's going to lead. Maybe they will, make a farm like the guy talks about an omnivore's dilemma with the chicken coop, and they eat the bugs and they go back, and
Those
who
mobile
knows?
chicken coops,
A
yes,
mobile
that,
chicken coop.
they're out there.
But like I said, that makes sense. The pathways make sense. The way you describe them, the linkages with what's going on post-secondary, that makes sense too.
We'll be mindful of our language around what we're...
Yes,
Excellent.
please.
Thank you.
What was also very evident at the FFA banquet was the link between middle school and high school, and how well the middle school especially acknowledged student performance in the agri-science courses and honored students for that. And I like the idea that Mark Storsheim is going to have an elementary piece this summer at Howe. They're going to.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I think it's great to bring the elementary piece together, because I think it's what we need to do.
And I think the 8 teachers didn't only focus on career paths, but also, like you said, personal gardens, personal, you know, I mean, they can do their own landscaping. There's a lot of things that are applicable to real life, not necessarily just career.
Well, the parents at this FFA banquet see it as an entire workforce. Yard work and
Yeah.
head care and everything. I mean, they're pleased.
It's actually, you know, when the Highway 41 project was vetting contractors, they were looking for minority landscapers and really had difficulty finding them. So, I mean, they're out, you know, there's opportunities out there, no question.
Any other comments, questions?
Even where it's winter 6 months of the year.
Yeah. It's a nice day today.
It is.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. We will move that forward. And we have the next up, admission of foreign exchange students policy and procedures for admitting.
So members of the Board of Education, Kim Powell, who is serving the district in another capacity this evening, unfortunately, is not able to
Chicken dinner,
present
yeah.
this policy. Both her and Linda Blahoviak oversee it from a district perspective. Linda has done this for many years in our district and has done a tremendous job. As a result of some internal process revisions and review, and quite frankly, as a matter of updating the policy and rule, we're bringing this forward to you today. We're seeing increasing nuances within the the groups that bring in foreign exchange students, and making sure that those partners are working with us to comply with our policies and procedures as well, and not get too far out in front of things before we can get them registered and enrolled. Has been a work in progress. They've been responding well, but it's caused us to have a bit of an internal resetting and checking to make sure that we are aligned from a policy perspective as well. So we bring you forward the revisions to both the policy and the rule. I know both Kim, Melissa, and I, along with Linda, worked on this. We also reached out to our high school principals to check internally on how they manage foreign exchange students as well.
Brenda.
I have a few questions, and I don't know if,
Melissa can answer them all.
okay.
Just toss them out there and we'll see where it
Um,
goes.
Yeah.
A couple things. Well, my first question is, it seems like there's some changes in here that from previous rules, at least that I'm aware of. And I'm wondering if we've looked at other districts' policies and are we in line with them? One of the rules that the enrollment eligibility for 1 year only, is that new, or did we just not follow it in the past?
Let me answer your first question, because I think you had a two-part question. Did we look at other district policies? And the answer is yes, we looked at many other district policies, as well as the WASB model policies.
Okay.
And if you notice, these were last updated in 2008, so it's been a little while.
Yeah.
And we are in alignment with those policies on the 1 year,
Okay.
the 1 year term.
And that's new? That's a new one for us?
It actually isn't new for us.
Oh, it isn't?
Most of what you see in that rule is the unwritten policies and the unwritten procedures we've been following. Now, if one squeaks by here and there, I can comment on that.
Okay.
Because I wasn't here during the term of this since 2008.
Okay.
And I wouldn't, and I don't know, Linda would have to comment on that. She oversees most of this
Okay.
from a process standpoint. But that is consistent with almost every policy that we review.
Okay.
Some said that they couldn't be here for less than a year because of having to place them in those courses and the duration of that kind of thing.
Okay. Another one that either is new or squeaked by was the fact that the student cannot have graduated from their home high school.
Hmm.
And do you know if that's new or?
I don't know if that was
Okay.
new. I know that that was,
We can,
Okay, should I just
Check
wait
it.
till
well,
next week? when
Nope.
ki- just-
why don't you
Okay,
give
just
me
give the
Give the
questions.
questions so
Yeah.
that they have a
Alright.
chance
so we
to,
have an answer, yeah.
And then, I'm working not with my own account here, so I have to remember what my questions were. The language, the TOEFL test. The te-
I-
you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yep,
about?
I know what you're talking about.
I don't know where it is, but anyway, in the policy.
It's in the rule.
And there isn't, it just says that you have to get a certain proficiency, and I know on the TOEFL test, there's multiple levels of proficiency. And I'm just wondering which level we're requiring, because I know if you're going into college, it's a certain level, and I don't know much about that test, but it just seems to me that that should be defined, because you don't want it to be so proficient that we're acing kids out from the opportunity to be able to come here and learn English better. But
So more defined than a minimum level of, is what you're saying?
is that what it says? Is
Yeah.
it minimum level?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess that was my question.
Yeah.
What's the
What does
minimal
minimal
level of
mean? Yep.
proficiency? And are we, is it minimal enough that kids who have enough English can function when they get here, but then learn a lot
Yep.
when they're here?
We can get that.
I don't know what the minimum level is, but I did, in defining this language, I did speak with Linda, and maybe Ed can comment on this from his previous experience. My understanding is that there is a writing sample that is given with this TOEFL, and that the principals look at that writing sample and evaluate whether the student appears
If there's
with,
question, yeah.
sufficient, have enough English proficiency to be placed in the school, but I don't know what the minimum level is beyond looking at that writing sample as well.
Okay.
And the writing sample doesn't always tell you. I always had good luck with the students, but we did have one student come in, the writing sample was fine, but her oral
Spoken.
language was, she just
Yeah.
could not speak English well at all or understand it. She ended up having to go home.
Okay. So your question is, what is the minimum level?
Yeah, or can we, I don't even know what it is, but does everybody in the
Sure,
room know what
that's
it
it,
is? And, you know, all the principals and whoever else is looking at this?
and for our viewing audience, TOEFL is Test of English
I'm
as a
sorry.
Foreign Language. The acronym, please.
And one of
I'm
the
not-
good things about, we've had, the partners that we've worked with have worked with us for an extended period of time, and they understand expectations and attempt to put kids in positions to be successful when, when they know as much information as possible, so.
And then I have two more questions.
No, go
So
ahead. You're fine.
So I know when students come in, the program that they come in with has requirements of what they have to take in terms of classes while they're here. Are we, I can't remember if there was I don't remember us having a list of the type of courses they have to take while they're here, and are we just leaving that up to the program that they're coming in with? Do you know what I'm asking? Like, I know we had a foreign exchange student, and he had to take English
Yeah.
language arts the whole year. He had, there were certain things that his program required him to take, but I don't think the school was requiring, or our district was requiring him to take it.
Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we have anything spelled out to that specific level in policy. However, that's exactly what we would take recommendations from the program, but then also the counselors would then start to work with the
Right.
families and with the administration to really create a learning plan, for lack of a better term, that meets their goals, what they're hoping to accomplish with their time in our schools.
And so my last question is, if we've in fact had these policies in place and kids are slipping through, how are we going to assure that the policy is being followed as written?
Yeah. I can handle that one, I think.
Because I know of two,
Yep.
that two different students that broke those two policies, that would have broken the two policies as written
Yeah.
that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Because of the 1 year requirement?
One came for more than a year, and one had already graduated from high school.
So quite frankly, I think that's why we're bringing the policy forward for approval. I think that tells our story, and then it provides us an opportunity to build the capacity in the leaders. I believe that, our principals do the best they can with, you know, the information they have. I can just share a quick example that Barb and I started to kind of take our associate principals through a tutorial on policy at our last associate principal meeting, and that really is something that from a professional learning standpoint we can really continue to invest in and support our administrators with that. The other piece is that Linda, from a clerical standpoint, with Holiak, is kind of the architect of the process, but then it becomes then upon Kim and I to make sure from an administrative perspective that we are able to ensure that the policy is being implemented. So it's a double-edged approach.
Can I?
Go ahead,
So
and
do
then-
you approve the admissions, or do the principals in the schools?
Typically what would happen is, now I will.
Okay.
Typically what happened would be is that Linda would get it, she'd look at capacity, and she'd oftentimes pick up the phone and call an administrator and say, hey, how does this look, your class sizes, you know, that sort of thing. I'm gonna take a more active role, and then also serve as a liaison for our principals too, so that we're looking at things from a district perspective as well. So I think that'll be a change in practice, not from a micromanagement standpoint, but just from a standpoint of being a thinking partner with our secondary principals. We have some schools that have more requests than other schools, so that becomes somewhat of a difficult thing. How can you say no when they just keep asking for this school? So sometimes it's easier for me to help with that process too.
If I can just follow up on that too, if you look at the rule, which is really the procedures, and I think what you're concerned that what perhaps being followed in the past, the red with the underline is what was added. So there was really not very much definition to this rule.
Okay.
Just the black is what existed.
Oh, really, all of
Right, so this is.
So this is all.
We're really tightening things
Yeah.
up.
So I hear your concern, Brendan. I think adding what the practice should have been as part of the rule is going to make it much more clear for everybody who's an administrator how to do the rule.
Okay. Wow, there was
It was
nothing in
Great
there.
stance.
Yeah. Okay. No wonder. Okay.
Okay. Celestine?
Actually, this is a question for Brenda as a follow-up. So why not, right?
We'll just talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah, there you go. You can all go home. No, just kidding. So the student who had already graduated from high school, this is because you know high school is defined differently in different places, and so was this the 10th grade graduation? This was okay. So they completed all right. Because I was going to say, I mean, if somebody graduated and got their what is it, O levels?
Oh yeah,
in
right.
England,
England,
right?
yeah.
And they wanted to come here. I'm cool with that because they're only 16. So
No, he was.
yeah.
19
Okay. All right.
when he was here.
Yeah. All right.
And it was his 5th year of high school,
Yeah.
which he reminded me of all the time. Because he was tired of high school.
Oh. But you know what's interesting? Let me just say this parenthetically. You know, NWTC has an exchange program, and they have students. It's an interesting exchange because they're getting students from the Middle East and from Central and South American countries and stuff. They have a program for students, you know, for the 19-year-old to come to NWTC, and they do various types of study there. But they have someone whose job it is to get those students. And mostly those are arrangements with those governments for them to come here, but just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay. Ed?
One of the issues that I know that principals have struggled with in the past has to do with the agencies that are sponsoring, not just the agencies, but also host families. And occasionally we would identify an agency that was difficult to work with, or we really didn't want to work with, or, you know, a host family. Is that addressed anywhere in here?
If you look at the rule, and just give me a moment,
As Melissa looks that up, we try to work proactively with agencies that we are aware of that maybe don't want to meet timelines or don't want to be open to other schools as well. In fact, I think we had 1 or 2 of those already this year. So,
if you look at the third page, section G, post-family criteria.
And the rule.
In the rule. And Linda had some anecdotal situations as well where there were certain situations that had not worked historically well. It wasn't an isolated
For one individual, host family was selected and approved prior to the acceptance of any exchange student. We don't find the host families, do we? No, that agency does.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do we approve them, or does the agency approve them?
We don't approve them.
Yeah, ooh, no.
The
We don't-
agency
we don't
does.
approve
Let's not
the
go there.
family,
Okay.
But we will, there is a consideration when we're placing the student if we will accept the student. And if it's a host family, according to Linda, if it's a host family that there have been concerns in the past, we may not place that student in the district.
Do we want to maybe make that a little clearer that that is an agency responsibility so that it doesn't give the impression that we will
Yeah, 'cause
select and approve?
There's no,
Yeah.
there's no actor
No.
in that sentence.
Sure.
So it's like,
It's a good call.
oh, we're doing that.
You don't wanna do that.
No.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Who's blessing everyone?
That's right. Bless us, everyone.
Tiny Tim.
Andrew, thank you.
I guess I want to echo what Celestine said about the, what does graduated high school even mean? That can be all over the map, and some countries have multiple high school systems where it can be varying number of years still called high school. My concern is that, in this rule, one of the few spelled out will not is the students who have graduated will not be accepted, which I guess concerns me. It seems to me that high school age, preferably a senior or the equivalent, perhaps is good enough, because you could come back to this and say someone who graduated high school in a country where high school is, in Australia up through 10 might be considered high school, and then 11, 12 is sometimes called college, depending on the part of the country. So I'm not saying it has to be exactly what I said, but I think it's clear. I think it's clear enough without students who have graduated will be accepted. Though if there might be some legal thing.
Yeah, one thing I'm concerned about, and I will check, and I'm not sure if this was your situation, if they're eligible for the J1 visa if they have graduated, because the definition of the J1 visa is the educational experience.
Mhm.
So we'll have to make sure that's not a concern
But
with that visa.
but they wouldn't have it. They wouldn't even, if they can't get the J1 visa, they can't even come. So it's moot, right?
Well, they could be here off visa, couldn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Our student was on visa, having graduated from high school.
Well, do we accept foreign exchange students off visa?
There is now, it's not coming to mind exactly, we accept tuition students on what is it? I-20, and those are tuition paid, students here that are from foreign countries.
Okay, but this rule is only about foreign exchange program students.
Yep, that's why I wanna just check to make sure that's not a new requirement or something, and if it's not, then we can do a new requirement.
Another question I have is with the TOEFL, there is now a speaking section of it too. Are there? I guess I'd like a little more information from the district perspective as where principal discretion would apply, like a example if one can be given without overly identifying people, especially where principal discretion of saying no to someone who otherwise seems to meet qualifications. Not so much principal advocacy for maybe someone who was a couple points short on the TOEFL and submitted an essay or something like that, which I would hope that they could ask. But I guess more so the reverse. If the principal is, vetoing someone, when would that happen? Could the person turn to another school and that principal is okay with it, which would be not worst thing in the world, but odd?
My sense is, as you alluded, that the discretion is used more in favor of the student than in opposition, but I'll go back and look at that, Andrew.
Right, but as written, I guess, as written in this rule, it's an additional requirement. So is there a case where, 1, 2, and 3 would be in order, and it would be become a no-go at the principal level?
Just so I'm tracking you, can you
Right,
give me your?
so we're on B, I'm
Yep.
following just what's on the screen, so.
So 1, 2, and 3.
So we've got the, actually, yeah, 1, 2, and the new 3. So we've got the visa covered, we've got the age rule covered, we've got the TOEFL covered. What might be a case where where as a district, we would be comfortable with the principal saying no at this point? Like, why would we?
Yeah.
What's any
Yep.
good case where that may happen?
Let me go back and see if I can collect some organizational examples of maybe where that did come up.
Okay, well, I would think if there's an if the problem is with the organization, if the organization is problematic enough that we're not working with them, it seems like that should be as a district. That we would,
I think Mark might like.
Yeah, our
organization,
yeah,
okay.
if we have any examples here that I can reference.
I guess it seems to me that it would be very unusual why there wouldn't be a I would hope the answer would be yes or no from all of the high schools that someone would apply to. Hopefully.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to, the rules say that the student must be in compliance with the Wisconsin immunization standards. But does that include, and I don't think it should, but the immunization standards include personal conviction and religious waivers and all this kind of thing? Does that mean that we're saying they must comply with the immunization portion, the medical portions, or with the overall law where you could just do a personal conviction waiver, or your host family could, or something?
Parents would have to.
My understanding is they have to have the immunizations, and that's typically a requirement of the agency.
Which is good, but if it's going to be in our policy, I guess I want to know what that means. And I think as written, it would not exclude someone who did a waiver, a non-medical waiver. Certainly, if there's a medical, it's a small point, but it's a point of principle. I don't think there's a public health good to being immunized, and while there are waivers for our own students, I think if someone's coming in, unless there's a medical reason not to, they should have had that. But you can comply with requirements on a personal conviction or waiver that would still be within the requirements. So if that could be checked before next time. Though my intent wouldn't be to exclude someone who had a medical reason they couldn't have it. It would be to exclude someone who has a I don't feel like it reason. That was all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Chris?
A couple comments, if I may. In terms of being high school graduates, that wouldn't be the concern for me as much as their age. I wouldn't be interested in having youngsters that are young adults. By that I mean 19, 20 plus, even 18 if they're already 18 upon entering. I would probably take a good look at that. And it goes back to somebody mentioned, age equivalent. So that's more of a concern for me there too. I might point out the kids I've worked with through the years, they really don't come here for academics. I don't know one that really has. It's about the experience, the culture, and learning the language better. That's what they're about. And they in working with counselors, they tend to self-select the courses they want. Some harder, some less so, depending on where they are. And I guess part to Andrew's concern. I've always looked at these kids as being assets for our students because they get to learn whomever they're in contact with, and our teachers, somebody from another culture and country. And obviously the flip side of that is when they go back to their countries, they know a little bit more about us besides our movies, shall we say, or our music. So I don't mind having a process here. I just don't want to make it onerous for everybody, for the kids and others to get in. I agree with Mr. Dorff. I've been problematic with some of the home placements before. I wish we had, at least in my time, something a little quicker to rather than I had to go under the table, I would rather be above the table to get rid of some of those situations like that. And one last thing I just comment on from my experience, I would often talk to the kids before they left and ask them, well, not just when they left, but even before, but when they, as they're leaving, what did they like, and was it compared to their education here, was it harder, same, or difficult? But every one of them said it was easier here. Now, at first, that sort of blew me away. We have standards here, but then you ask the next question, which I didn't ask the first couple of years. What do you mean by easier? Well, the teachers here help you, and that's a pretty darn nice easier, and that's a compliment to our staff that I would share with them when I could. Thank you.
We had a Chinese girl, and she made the comment that the teachers are very different here because they're teaching her how to learn instead of just feeding her information. So that was.
And your point about perception of Americans, my daughter taught in a primary school in Bordeaux, and the portion of American culture had 2 chapters. One were on the Amish, and Westerns. Those were the highlights.
And Western?
And Westerns.
Oh yeah, French people and Germans, they love
yes,
the whole
Westerns
Wild
and
West
the
thing.
Amish.
Yeah,
Oh, all
they
right,
do.
so- Point is well taken, Chris. Any other questions or Andrew?
Just to add off of the point, which I'm glad came up about this whole, is our education easier? Are other schools, are other countries beating us? If you look proportionally at the innovation that we have here, if America is going to, if we're going to maybe lose on some standardized test competitions with other schools and deliver more per capita innovation, I'll certainly take the loss on the standardized test game show and have creative, be developing, encouraging creativity and not just rote learning. So
I join you in that.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we will move that forward. Our last discussion item is actually to schedule a board superintendent retreat. And we have allotted 5 minutes. Look at those calendars out.
Okay, on your mark, it's set.
And I'm thinking.
Did you have a particular day in mind?
No, probably a Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm thinking it's to review the strategic directions and make sure that we have clarity as we move forward, creating a district continuous improvement plan. So that's the purpose of the meeting. So I'm thinking no more than 2 hours would be needed, I would think, at maximum.
Okay, the 18th we have a meeting, the 25th is Memorial Day.
Yeah, we don't want to do it.
The 1st is a meeting.
First.
So the 8th would be the
June 8th?
first possibility.
June 8th is it's not that big of a deal to me, but it is the day after all the graduations. Not that big of a deal to me, but just throwing it out there. It wouldn't prevent me from going. I'm just.
Okay.
Day of service at Aldo Leopold. We've got an invitation to that. I don't know.
Yeah, the 8th is out for me.
In the morning.
8th is out for you?
Yep. 8th is out for you, all right.
How's the 15th looking?
I'm not here.
Yeah,
Yep,
the 1st and the
I'm not
15th.
here.
First and 15th, okay. 22nd?
Oh, heck.
Oh, I see.
22nd works for you? Andrew?
Yep.
Yes? Celestine?
What time are we talking about, Katie? 22nd?
Whatever time people
Whatever works.
It's
would like.
usually getting off work.
5:30 or?
Does 5:30 work?
Does the 22nd work, Celestine?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
And Ed? Works for
Andrew?
you?
Yep.
5:30?
5:30?
5:30.
Okay.
Does that work?
Let me just put it in there.
Does that work for you, Andrew, 5:30?
Yeah, 5:30.
5 doesn't work?
No, I can do 5.
Now you want 5?
Well, I'm just thinking then people don't have to stay here as long.
Oh, that's true, because it's not just about us. I can speak.
Wait, what was that?
Well, I guess the question is, what's the earliest we
We're
could
trying
get
to
here?
minimize the time between end of workday and the beginning of workday, but.
Just whatever you need.
Yeah.
Like,
Is
does 4 o'clock
five
work,
work?
5 o'clock?
5? I'm good.
I can make 5 work.
So
You can
we're,
make 5 work. Chris, can you make 5
we're
work?
ending up in 3, we're almost
Andrew,
at 5 minutes.
5, okay.
Okay.
5 o'clock
Like an auction.
on the 22nd.
22nd.
Whoops,
It's
whoops.
done. Okay, put it in your calendars.
Wait.
And about how long did you say?
No more than 2. Mark will be facilitating. If you've been to recent meetings with Mark, he can do a 2-hour meeting in one, so, okay.
You know, the
If you
self-correction
could do it an hour, I'd
on
really
my
appreciate
phone,
it.
every time I try to put BD for a board thing, it comes up BS, and I'm just thinking. Just thinking.
message. Something you
And
would
I have to
acknowledge in public,
chuckle.
huh?
It's
And
a
I'm thinking,
message.
okay, I'll
Maybe
change
we
it.
can get some things out earlier so that really that it's, doesn't
Efficient.
take as long.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, and that
Alright.
concludes our work session.
All right, we want to take a quick break?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I would.
See my
Yeah, I
head.
need to get
Yeah,
up there.
okay,
Yeah,
why don't we
yeah,
take a
you
quick
do.
break and we'll come back at 7:05.
On the agenda is something that's exciting, and Lori Peacock has come up with the idea of hiring some of our own students to work during the summer at Balin Manufacturing, which is located at the high school. So she's going to tell you a little bit about how this came to be and answer your questions on the job description.
So when we developed Baling Manufacturing, our goal was always to make this program as authentic to the real world as possible. So we went into this hoping we'd have jobs for them to do in the summer. And what we have found with some jobs that we are able to bid, that we will be able to keep Baling Manufacturing open through the summer. Not only based on the bids, but also at the request of a number of the manufacturers that are now really sitting up and taking note of this really unique opportunity. So we don't believe that we can close down Baylink at the end of May and then start her back up again in September, October. We just need to keep this momentum going. So our goal at this point would be able to hire at least, and probably no more than 4 students who have spent the entire year gaining the skill and knowledge that they need to be prepared to continue to work on the jobs for our customers. We anticipate that students will work anywhere between 8 to 20 hours a week, depending on the ebb and flow of the bids that they secure.
Unlike other students who we employ, these students will be earning $10 an hour. They'll come on our payroll, they'll be employees of the school district. And as soon as you approve the job description next week, we'll proceed with the formal interviewing process.
And whom will supervise the students?
Andy Belangi, the instructor.
Instructor there. Question?
When they send out a bid or when they put together a bid, how are they determining their labor costs?
That's a really good question.
Because as part of a class versus part of a job.
What we learned from working with our local manufacturers who really gave us a lot of advice and guidance, it's really based on materials, also based on the time frame in which the manufacturer needs the job completed. But the other thing is based on the cost of the machine that they are using to make whatever widget that they're working on. So you take all of those variables and then include the student cost in there, and that's how they come up with the bid. So Andy has a formula that he uses.
Okay. So will this actually be a cost neutral?
The students will be paid. No, the students will be paid out of the bids that they receive. So whatever money we make, a portion of that will go to pay the students.
Okay.
Technically, I don't think we can be in the money-making business per
We aren't
se. We
in
have to, we
right.
try to have to break even, right?
Correct.
Legally. So may I ask, follow up on Ms. Maloney's question. In terms of this summer, the projects that'll be worked on by up to 4 students with the instructor there, is that going to be neutral in terms of the revenue coming in, what we're putting out?
I'm not sure I know how to answer that question. Revenue coming in, revenue.
Well, I think even during the school year, I mean, I think it just depends on, what the bids are and what the costs are. I mean, I don't think there's any problem with the amount being
positive.
Well, the school year is one
Yeah.
thing, because, instruction is another thing.
Right,
The
we-
summer.
right.
And I certainly appreciate that you want to do that over the summer. It's expensive machines that shouldn't be idle.
Well, and we've created the need in the community.
Correct. And we do have other machinery that we would like to purchase. So it's not as if the money just sits there. We have plans not only to, buy more machinery, but we also hope, our goal was going in that within 3 years we would have a second shift. And that we, ideally in 5 years would like to knock down that wall and expand. So,
Would there be teachers?
I'm a big thinker.
I know.
She's not
Would
done
there
yet.
be
I'm not done
credit
yet, yeah.
opportunities for the students for the summer work, or just?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Would
that.
there be credit opportunities?
No,
for the
in fact,
students?
that is also a good question. We've looked at that opportunity, and based on the fact that right now we have 10 students in the program and 8 of them are seniors, once they graduate, they can no longer earn credit. So that's why we want this route.
Well, if indeed to that point, of these 4, at least 2, minimum 2 will be seniors. Is there an option for those that are not seniors to get credit or pay?
There is not at this point. The 2 juniors that we have, neither one of them was interested in continuing the program for the summer. That's certainly something we can look into for the future if we have juniors that, and ideally it'd be great if we did have juniors because they help then to transition as they go into their rising senior and we bring in other juniors. But we just didn't have that happen this year.
Do you know what the reasoning was, why they didn't want to participate?
Well, one of the students took Baylink Manufacturing because he's interested in marketing and sales. So the actual standing at a machine, while he has gained a great appreciation for that, that is just not where his skills and talents lie. So, but what he has said is that he does see himself working in marketing and sales in manufacturing. So that's opened up a whole new.
And I've heard him articulate that very
Yeah.
well, and he can speak knowledgeably from his experience in the manufacturing.
And we had visitors from a manufacturing company come in on Friday, and he actually wore a suit to meet with these 12 representatives and asked a lot of questions about that side of their business.
I would appreciate through the superintendent's update information on is this cost neutral or not for the summer, that component of it. I think we need to know. We should be knowing that. If it isn't, then we have to move in the future, I think, to try to work that way. Any other questions, concerns? Well, thank you for pushing this.
This is a great
nice. And I mean, I said it, but I want to go back to that point. For those youngsters that aren't seniors or graduates, I personally think they should have the option of pay or credit. I wouldn't want to go just credit because, kids need to earn money in the summer. And it seemed to me could be a deterrent for them when they participate in the summer if they couldn't.
And when we ask the students, they would rather get paid.
Me too.
Well, and that's.
Well, and could they?
I understand that, yeah.
I think from a summer school perspective, we could certainly provide options as we look to create summer school course offerings that are satellite or unique to that particular school. So there's certainly an option. But then you're bound to hours and, a little bit more logistics.
Yes.
I don't know why you would necessarily tell someone to, if course credit does enter into this, I don't see why you would exclude the possibility of pay and course credit, because we have students now in co-op programs that are working for pay and getting credit. So you wouldn't want this to be a less than opportunity. Though I can see where maybe the scope of the program isn't ready for credit yet when we have well-developed co-op programs in other CTE areas.
Yes.
And would we be able to give credit when they've already taken the course and received
Well,
credit
we'd
for the
have
course?
to come back to the board and ask you
It would be a
to
new-
approve a new course.
A new course, okay.
That we would probably transcribe then with NWTC.
Yeah, okay.
But keep in mind that then we're looking at a certain hours requirement that may
Right,
be
and
above
that
and
may be
beyond what
more
our students.
Complicated than it.
Right.
Yeah, right,
Because we
that's
did
right.
really look at all of that and just
Yeah.
found that first year in, we just wanted to keep it simpler so that we did the right things.
I just think it's great that you've created this dependence in the community. And
Yeah.
they need you to keep going.
Yeah, we get that question all the time now from manufacturers, are you gonna be open this summer? And I think their expectation is that we might say, well, no, because, we're not open in the summer. And when we say, yes, we are, that really does great things.
I appreciate that.
And you have 4 students interested?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Good.
Yeah, and our instructor is interested in
That's great.
staying engaged
Yeah,
all summer.
That's great.
So,
Good. That's great.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Laurie.
Ms. Marsh next has several updates, tweaks, and revisions with the employee handbook.
Yes. You received a copy of the entire handbook with the changes, and if you can bring it up on the screen.
Yeah, you probably can. I think Neptune went down.
I have lost Neptune again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll stop taking it personally. Okay.
That's not
I
good.
just log on. Now we're.
I just went in.
Oops, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do not mean
would it
to
be
do that.
helpful if I would print out at least the listing of the changes by page number? I'll just go and do that, so you'll each have a copy and you can.
Just pull up the document.
You can do that?
Yeah, this would be very difficult
Oh, that was smart.
without being able to see it.
Sandy emailed it to her. Smart.
Sandy's smart.
What am I
Sandy's
doing?
smart. Just saying.
What am I looking for? Oh, right, I'm trying to get in again. Okay.
It's not gonna work, so.
I'm gonna give it the good old college try, because I got it before.
Yes,
Oh.
that one, actually, we'd like the actual.
The actual handbook, yeah.
Close.
Yeah, there it
It's
is.
doing that.
It's a nice
As we
picture.
get ready to look at the document, most of the changes that you have before you, but not all of them, are driven by the changes necessitated by the.
Jean, sorry, do you want to put a
You're not in the
microphone? You're not
I need the
mic'd.
mic.
Sure. There we go.
So good you don't.
Close.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, use your teacher voice.
She's a nurse. She's a nurse voice, that quiet
That's
soft
right.
voice.
Quiet, soft nurse voice.
Yeah, that's not a loud voice.
Yeah.
My mother doesn't have quiet softness. She's a nurse. Anyway, go on.
Most of the changes before you were necessitated by the time and attendance system that's going to be starting July 1st. And, but there are a few exceptions that Randy will point out. We met last week with the bargaining unit representatives and went through this, and then today we met with the cabinet. And there will be one change as we go through the document that we made that you have not seen yet, because we changed it in the cabinet, so I'll explain it to you. But I'll turn it over to Randy to step you through page by page the changes, and then we'll pause and let you ask questions as we move through it.
Good evening. What you'll notice in the document that you're looking at is the red language is language that is new, proposed for the board for consideration. There are some blue language that's in there, and that is, I highlighted one in particular because there's a section that went from one piece into another section, which is changing some of the language between some of our leaves. And the main thing that we did, knowing that we have to roll this out for the time and attendance system, we took a look at the very first part one of the handbook, and the general sections that were in there. We took a look to see if they were consistent with what we needed, and recognized that we needed to kind of realign some of those. So in the first part here, we see the sections that are coming up. Anything that's in black is existing language. It just may not be under the same heading that it was before, because we felt that maybe it was in an inappropriate spot. And I didn't point out all of those because there's a number of those, but again, it didn't change any of the language or impact of the language in the handbook at all. So on page 8, the very first proposed change to language that we had was to add language, a definition for an exempt employee. We recognize that when we're talking about time and attendance, we have exempt and non-exempt employees. Non-exempt are the hourly employees that have to use the system for time and attendance every single day. And we had no definition of what an exempt employee was, so we put a general definition into the heading under definitions here for exempt employee.
Any questions about that?
So as we go forward, we get up to pages 18 to 21, and here's where you start to see the very first change. This is a new section. Hours and pay did not exist before. So we pulled pieces from other parts of Part 1 into this that include wages, hours, work week, things like that. They were kind of scattered around, and we brought them into this section because it more specifically defines what it is that we're talking about when it comes to hours and pay of our employees. So as we scroll forward here, the very first thing you'll see on the next page, on page 19, is we added, for definition and clarification purposes, hourly to the definition of work week, because this is 40 hours or less. That's specific to hourly employees of 40 hours or less. The piece in here in red defining the work week is actually language that exists elsewhere in this section that was previously approved, and that was under the approved overtime additional compensation. And this is just a definition of what our work week is. So we added that piece in here as well because it does apply when we're looking at FSLA. Fair Labor Standard Act, federal wage and hour laws, and how we apply overtime compensation and what that period of time is, what work week that overtime is counted. Also underneath the work week, you see the piece that's struck out there. Those definitions of how many hours that an employee works, that is specific to what we used to have as far as the educators, custodial maintenance. They always worked the 8-hour days. The reality is that when we're defining the position now, we're not confined by whether or not a person is a 7-hour position. We may decide that a position that had historically been a 7-hour position can better serve the district as an 8-hour position. And so keeping those definitions in there really wasn't doing us any benefit at all. So we're just asking to strike that out, knowing that we'll decide based on the needs of a department or a school what the length of a shift would be for an employee who falls into one of those work groups. Any questions about that area in particular?
Why is the or as determined by the district out needed? I mean, why wouldn't you just say across the board it's going to be Monday through Sunday, that's the week for overtime purposes, end of story?
Why do you need the?
Why do you need the out, which is or as determined by the district? Why? I always question if there's a unless we change our mind clause in something, it should be for something pretty. There should be a good reason for that, and I'm just wondering what.
The pay week as it is the cutoff between. It's that 7-day period, and you have to actually have a time, like 12
which you do.
You have to have a time when you go into an electronic system, which we do.
Unless you feel like changing it. I mean, it's how it's written.
Right. But we could change it, but
why does that need
What
to be
would
there?
you change it to? How would you do? What's an example of changing it, Jean?
I'm trying to think if we'd ever go like on an 880. The board would probably, well, if you ever go to pay people 80 hours in a 2-week pay period like that.
Then would
Yeah.
you come back?
You would
though,
come
and
back
get
to the
board
board.
approval?
So I think,
maybe
I don't think there would be harm in taking that out. That is the work week. That's how it's going to be programmed into the system.
Yeah, because that would be a big. If you were going to alter out of the traditional work week, even if legal, that's a serious discussion. So I guess I would think that every out clause. If I'm an employee, every new unless we change our mind clause that gets put in there makes me just incrementally a little bit more nervous, and I don't see why we need one here.
I'll check into that and see if there's any reason that we would need that phrase.
Any other questions? Okay, if we continue to scroll down to the next section, this is the work hours for salary. This would be our administrative professional educator section. And what you see in here is just a couple strikeouts and addition of language. It just clarifies. Otherwise, there's nothing in the first 3 paragraphs that's any different. The lunch period, the reason that's struck out, the language that you see on the lunch period that cites Wisconsin Statutes 118-235 defines what the actual state statute says, which is you have to provide an educator a 30-minute non-paid duty-free lunch. Nowhere else in the handbook do we actually cite state, federal statutes, law type thing to say that that's the type of work that we would do. And so we're just asking just to strike it out. And we come back later in this section to actually define the 30-minute non-paid duty-free lunch for all employees. And so that's the reason that one is struck out. Any questions on that piece? Okay, the next section is struck out because it's simply been incorporated elsewhere. The first paragraph and the second paragraph was specific language that came out of the contract for the paraprofessionals that says that the paraprofessional work year shall coincide with the educators. The reality is it's not just paraprofessionals whose schedule are aligned with the school calendar. It's our noon hour supervisors, our food service, our monitors. All those groups have the same type of schedule set up. So singling out the paraprofessionals didn't seem like it was serving the purpose. All those units work around the same work schedule. The next section in red, this is our first language that's going to be introduced to for your consideration, the handbook that will address the time recording on the clocking in and out of the time attendance system. What it does is it explains it's for our hourly employees. It talks about our 7-minute window for clocking in and out, which means that if you clock in 7 minutes before or after your time, the clock automatically adjusts around that, and this specifies what the district's decision has been. It just explains that employees will be using their ID badge for clocking in and out. It's not going to be a new badge. It's going to be the same one that they currently have, and where they would go to replace that if they needed to.
Wait, could you explain that when you say the system automatically adjusts for clocking in and out 7 minutes ahead?
It rounds to quarter hours,
Right. It
rounds to quarter hours.
Right. So if you were to if you clocked in 7 minutes prior to your start time at 8 o'clock, say 7:53, it would say you started at 8 o'clock. The system would, but if you go before that, it would round you back to quarter 2 if you're 8 minutes prior. So it's the rounding system, how the system recognizes when an employee is clocking.
Why are we rounding instead of just going minute by minute?
Yeah.
Most time and attendance systems round. That's the standard way of doing it. That's the way of all, that's how they're programmed to work.
It doesn't even have the option to do it for all the money we're spending on it?
I've not had any experience where you don't round. You can round by a certain number of minutes, but this is fairly common. And people who've used them, I mean, some of the employees in our ASME unit, I asked how many of you have used this system before, and quite a few of them have had jobs where they've used time and attendance systems.
Didn't we always round with the paper? They put 11:22.
And it was hand calculated. That's what we're doing now.
But this would round up. So if I start at 11:22, I come in at 11:15. And my pay starts at 11:15.
We're going to try to schedule people to start on the hour or quarter hour so that their shifts start at a time that makes more sense.
What time do I clock in at for 11:22 shift?
They're going to get rid of
We're going to try to get it so it's 11:15 shift.
Right. So you'll switch that.
And this will affect most of the hourly employees. For example, monitors have indicated that they might start at 11:22, and that's when they're supposed to be on the playground on duty. So they have no time built into their day to do any reporting off to the school secretary or to check their email. And they're expected to do those things, so this will give them a few minutes during the day.
That's what I was saying. If I clock in at 11:15, I can spend some time in my email. I've got 7 minutes there.
Yes.
And then I finish at an odd time, and I might have, when you and I looked, I thought there was at least 10 minutes probably that people would get on either side as we looked at different schedules.
Yes.
Okay, so they had 10 minutes for sure.
Yeah, at the elementary level,
During the
that's
day.
a significant thing because the lunch recesses don't start on 15-minute intervals. And so this is going to be real positive for the employees who are going to have a little bit more time to do some of that work that they're doing before and after their shifts now.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yes.
So they're actually going to get to take advantage of that, which may result in increased hours.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll extend their shifts anywhere from, we figure 8 to 15 minutes potentially, when you add a little at the beginning and a little at the end for some of those.
Okay, so, which if someone's right on the bubble could make a difference in their benefit category maybe, but no one will drop as a result of this?
No, no one will go down. The rounding is gonna result in increases in the length of the shift for anybody that we're rounding.
Okay,
So
so
moving to the quarter.
if someone's shift starts at 11:24, which would round to 11:30, we would instead tell them to start at 11:15?
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, from a management standpoint, that's one of the issues that the principals will have to do. So instead of building monitor allocations to start at your period at 11:22, we need to work with them that they would start at 11:15 to be able to get them in, to be able to get to the cafeteria for 11:22.
And they schedule to the minute, so is additional time going to be allotted for?
Just talked about that today.
Yeah, there's dollars put in the budget to do this.
We run a cost analysis of what it is gonna take in order to do that.
What monitors are doing though, if they have to stay over and, you know, write out a report of something that might have happened on the playground or talk to somebody, they put it on a paper timesheet.
Why are we doing this?
And then that goes and is entered manually into the system. And that's what they're doing right now. So they would simply, instead of doing that, they clock out when they're actually done with work. So we are paying above and beyond their core hours anyway with the timesheet method.
Then also along the lines of this, I guess, as written, unless it's written differently elsewhere, I could leave 7 minutes early all the time, which is not prohibited here. It is not.
It is not.
However, in saying that, I also don't want to over police that maybe sometime, maybe one day you did, but on the other hand, I don't want it to be probably super discretionary either, where the one supervisor might go after people who are always leaving at 3:58, and another supervisor looks the other way on it. But I don't want to do the, you know, retail world penalty point system either. So how is that balance struck? And hopefully how is that balance struck?
Well, when you work with the system, you have a scheduled shift. So let's just say your shift starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 4:30. The expectation is that you're supposed to be at your workstation, ready for work at 8 o'clock. That means that you wouldn't be punching in at 8:05. You'd be punching in a few minutes before so that you're ready to be at work. So what you monitor is the work and when you're there at work, not so much the punches. And some positions require that the individual be right there because things have to be opened up and, you know, the school is open. But in many of the positions, it's not that precise. You know, people can, you know, they're supposed to be there for, you know, a 7 or an 8-hour shift. So you're really looking at when they're there, are they there when they're supposed to be there, and not so much the time of the punch. Does that make sense?
Is what you said in writing somewhere?
No.
Okay, so again,
well,
I
actually,
can come in at 8:07 and leave at 4:23 every day without violating the terms of this, which shouldn't be okay. But again, I also don't want someone who had several 801s to be penalized either. So I'm kind of torn on what would you do about it.
well, you know, you're supposed to be on time to work. And we're basically saying the district uses a time and attendance system to maintain accurate time and attendance records. Now, we haven't been so explicit to say you're supposed to be on time for work. I don't know if that's in the handbook anywhere, but we
Well,
could certainly,
because
I mean,
it
but
kind of-
that's, you're supposed to be on time for work.
If the guy's coming in at 8:07 on a regular basis, and I know he's gotta be on his duty station at 8, I'm gonna have an issue with that, and I'm gonna address it with him from a supervisory standpoint. It may be that the clock says that he's okay, but he's not okay, you know, in face-to-face contact here, we've gotta have a discussion about that.
So it would fall under a supervisor's discretion. Yes, you didn't violate that paragraph, however, you're not at your station.
You're not at your station, you're not on the job. And maybe it says that you are on the clock, but the reality is it's 8:05, you're not here.
Yeah, I guess I don't.
We've got an issue.
Yeah, I guess I just don't want to open a surprise here.
Well, I mean, basically what Ed said is exactly how it works. You're supposed to be on time for work. I'll look in the handbook, we'll look in the handbook to make sure it says it.
We have a policy on attendance.
Yep,
That
okay.
says that it's expected employees will be to work on time throughout the day, and that if they're going to be late, they're just expected to notify their immediate supervisor as soon as practical.
So that's.
So we have already addressed the fact that we expect employees to be to work on time.
Okay, so you could be in compliance with the time clock procedure, but
Correct.
not in compliance with being
With
on
the
time.
attendance.
Right.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
That's all I have.
The next section, if you go to the next page.
Actually, I want to.
Oh, yeah, we gotta go back. The second paragraph wasn't pulled up for you to see.
I want to point this out.
Accurate and timely?
Yes, accurate and timely reporting of the time is the responsibility of everybody. And the second sentence in that second red paragraph is the one time in this handbook where we do say that this may result in disciplinary action up to including termination. And most time and attendance policies have a statement in there. Now, we don't thread that through all of the handbook. Maybe actually, when we started looking at the handbook a couple of years ago, we took it out where it said that. But because time and attendance is one of those things that you really want to make sure that people understand, this is important, it's got to be accurate, it's got to be timely, and there's a consequence. You have to be that explicit in most, and this is what I would recommend. If you have somebody who has on purpose falsified time and attendance records, and they apply for unemployment, this is one example, and you can show unemployment that this is your policy, and the employee knew it, they probably would not get unemployment, because falsifying time and attendance is considered extremely serious. It's akin to theft of money. So that's why I recommend having that particular sentence in there in this policy.
And how with the automated system? Will someone do that?
There are the automated system does not prohibit people from inaccurate reporting of time and attendance.
Okay.
There are so many ways that.
They're gonna, but some of them are gonna be on apps too, so.
The systems that I do they're all fingerprints.
Oh. Yeah.
So I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you can have somebody badge in for you. That's one way.
Okay.
Badge in and leave.
Don't give them.
Badge in and leave.
Yeah, don't give too many ideas.
But if I,
discuss all the ideas.
if I could offer though, I think one of the things we talked about, the likelihood of someone trying to beat the system is one thing, but I think our discussion around this, a lot of it had to do with the fact that you might have someone who's tardy or late, and they're trying to cover it, not realizing that, and they're not thinking I'm stealing money. They're thinking I'm late and I better cover myself. And I think that was the piece that by doing something like this, they don't realize how serious that is unless it's in there. That was my takeaway, is that I don't anticipate there will be employees trying to cheat the system. I might believe that someone might get scared or nervous and think, I'm late, how do I fix that? And they pull over and put it in their car and plug in, and they're not there yet. I could see that happening and not realizing how
Right.
serious. I don't know if it will, but I would like to believe that that would be a greater concern for us than someone trying to cheat the system. That's all. Not realizing that it is serious and it is actually a theft kind of thing.
If I may, I believe you have at least one box already being used on a trial basis.
Mhm.
And
Yes, we
any
do.
comments on that at this point in time, or is it too early to judge?
I think that it's working well for the people who are actually using it, but it is something that people have to get used to, remembering to do it. We're looking at where the time clocks are located to see if they're in the right places. It's too early, I think, to judge the few people that are using it. We're really trying to make sure their hours are pulling correctly, rather than is it rounding correctly, but are the hours being recorded correctly is what we're really trying to do.
Moving right along.
Okay. The next section is the additional hours and overtime approval. This one, I labeled it in particular because it came from part 3. This wasn't just one we rearranged in part 1, but this fits much more appropriately in hours and pay. So we just moved this up from the part 3 section into part 1 now. If we go forward into the next page, on page 21, what we have in addition to the overtime language, what you see in red here, new timesheets were created about a year ago, maybe over a little year ago. And it included a definition of how people would be compensated for overtime, which of the jobs they're doing would put them into overtime if they're working multiple jobs. And this is language that, word for word, off of that timesheet. We just wanted to embed that into the handbook because it does define how the district will pay overtime for people that work more than one job. If you're working one job and you go into overtime, it clearly pays you at your regular rate of pay at time and a half. But if you're working 2 jobs and one of them's a regular position, and one of them, say, taking tickets at a game for $12 an hour, this language clarifies how you'll be paid for the overtime. The next piece, any questions on that?
Well, how is primary defined in writing? Not common sense, but how is it defined in writing?
It's actually in board policies, in our FOSA policy. So just give me a minute, I can pull it up for you. And this has to deal with our employees who are hourly that work the 2 different jobs. So they are clerical and ticket takers. Under the default rule, you have to pay a blended rate of overtime. So it would be a formula of how many hours they work at both jobs, and it gets to be very cost prohibitive, and it's not a win-win for anybody because the alternative is that hourly employees are not going to do those extra duties. So if you enter into an agreement ahead of time where you're agreeing to the overtime rate on the secondary job, you're allowed to do so. You still have to pay that ticket-taking job at time and a half or more than 40 hours, but it's not on that larger rate.
So I guess, I'm just wondering, is there any potential for someone messing with the idea of which one is the primary? Say I work 2 positions of record for.
I think
Just give me a minute.
people could be confused, but we do identify the primary position for employees.
We do. They know that when it's in their employee record. Okay. Well, then I'm fine with it. I mean, if every employee has a primary position entered into the HR system, then I'm fine with that.
Even the educators who might work at a couple of different schools, they have a home school that's identified, and that's, that doesn't apply to the pay, but they actually have every employee's a home base.
I don't want to read its equivalent, Andrew, but if you look at policy 530, it talks about separating out the primary and secondary jobs.
As long as it's defined.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, moving forward to the next section, again, we brought up from the part 3, and this is the lunch period breaks. For those that are on the board that recall when we first brought the handbook forward in 2012, there was lengthy conversation about the variances in the language that was bargained collectively for the times that people had to work in order to get a break. And it was a very lengthy conversation. We had no consistency because everyone was different. This is an attempt to bring language forward to the board now that treats every employee the same for how they earn or how they move into their lunch hours and then how they earn their breaks. And the lunch language that's in here defines that any employee that works 7 hours or greater will be allowed a 30-minute non-paid duty-free lunch. And it says here that it will be deducted from, automatically deducted. The way the system is set up, that any employee who works 7 hours or greater, the system automatically takes 30 minutes off because it's non-paid duty-free lunch at that point in time. Under the breaks, what we've done is we've defined that any employee who works at least 3.5 hours will now be allotted a 15-minute break. Any employee who works 7 consecutive hours will get a second, be eligible for a second break. And then at the end of the first paragraph, if you see this is neither lunch period nor break may be used to account for employees' late arrival or departure, we want to make sure that people aren't starting their day 15 minutes late and saying that I took my break for the first 15 minutes and then I'm ending my day 15 minutes early because I'm leaving the premises. So that just defines that a break is not to do either of those things to shorten or lengthen your day by coming in later or earlier. There is a change that we talked about at Cabinet this morning that'll be coming back in the next edition that we have here. And the very first paragraph, the sentence here says variations of the break or lunch schedule. That's been adjusted, so if you allow me just to read it quickly.
Just if I could offer, there's still further discussion warranted on this part, and I think that I would ask that at this point in time, because the revisions haven't been all fleshed out, we would be bringing it back, because this is an opportunity, as we discussed the last time we were making changes. This could be a 2-month process. In other words, if we're not ready to move this forward this evening, we wouldn't ask the board to vote on it next week or next time. This would not be something we'd add, but I think what I like about this process, we had decided, something we moved quickly, we decided if we needed 2 different months to do something rather than rush through it. So with our conversations this morning in Cabinet, we started making changes and addressing it. So I would ask if you're okay with that, rather than put those changes out there that the board hasn't seen, that we would bring them back to Cabinet and then could either send them out again for consideration or wait till the next work session a month from now to address those, just so that you have some time to digest and we make sure that the language is where we want it. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So that would be just the lunch period?
Just this
breaks,
lunch period. The rest I think we were
Okay.
comfortable. If I recall, I think we were fine with everything else, that a lot of work had been done.
Could you go back up a little bit? Again, here's your break or lunch schedule, unless your supervisor says so, and then it's what your supervisor wants. I mean, that's what it says. And I say these things not because I think Jean's gonna do it, or Randy's gonna do it, or Principal ABC is gonna do it, or Team Shift Lead whatever is gonna do it. It's because it concerns me that, you know, where we're going to be, I'm concerned is that, you know, everything will be, so the board has the right to do it, to remove everything that has ever been traded off in negotiations ever. Could have been done the day after Act 10. We didn't. I'm glad and I say we, the people on the board didn't take away everything after Act 10. But these little things. I, as a supervisor, can change your break schedule. I don't think I can get rid of it as written. I don't think I can take your break away, but I can, some departments may require a 60-minute unpaid lunch.
Well,
I can share. Our library clerical have always had a 60-minute unpaid lunch because it extends their workday. They're 7-hour employees. They've always had a 60-minute duty-free. And when we have new positions that are coming open, we're talking with the supervisors and saying, how do you want to set this up? Let me just define a little bit about what the impact of the changes in the language on the breaks. If you really go unit by unit, the one unit that's going to have a negative impact, there was previously language that was negotiated that said a noon hour supervisor that worked 2.5 to 3.5 hours was allowed a 10-minute paid break. Those employees would no longer have the opportunity to have a 10-minute paid break because they're not at 3.5 hours. We have food service employees who never received a break at all previously until they hit 5 hours of employment. Every employee now who works in food service who works between 3.5 and 5 hours is going to be allowed the opportunity to take a 15-minute paid break. Our custodial groups who work 8-hour days have never contractually had language that said they got 2 breaks, they only got 1. They're now going to all be allowed to have a second paid break if they can fit it into their schedule during the course of the day. So the impact of the employees is greater to the noon hour supervisors because there will be fewer of them getting the break. But many other employees are getting a larger opportunity to have breaks than what had it previously because we're making this language consistent.
The other thing I wanted to say, Andrew, is that the language that's in black is currently in the handbook. So the adjusting by the immediate supervisor is right there. It's the way it is now.
Well, except you couldn't, I mean, it's a bigger deal for the supervisor to adjust a lunch schedule because they feel like it is probably a bigger deal than the breaks. I mean, you know, and you are not going to, in an organization of our size, you are not going to have all perfect people. You are not going to have every single supervisor not be spiteful towards an employee and play favorites. There will never be a time, or we're just too big to have 0 bad people as supervisors.
The supervisors are very mindful of making sure their people get lunch, though. I mean, they really do.
I'm talking about, you know, I'm talking about an organization with hundreds of people that may have supervisory duties, and maybe today 0 of them would do something like that, but that's today, and so people are going to leave. And
so if I'm understanding this accurately, then this would be something else when we go back and we're kind of crafting language a little bit different around this. We need to look at how we can eliminate that possibility that someone might be treated unfairly. Is that really what
right?
concern
I think
is?
You know, every little piece that was in writing that has unless your supervisor says so, added to it, which wasn't there before. Every single thing is picking away at what we've had for 40 years in an environment that's now unilateral, and that can't be good for morale. I think maybe with the noon hour supervisors, it's an unfortunate trade-off in a system where virtually everyone, well, no one else loses and most gain.
They still can get away for 10 minutes, though. It's just not, because it's such a short shift.
Right. So I'm, you know, like I said, I'm happy to see, you know, if a third of employees were losing a break and a third were gaining it, you know, that would be different, but that's not what's happening here. But again, you know, you could say you could have a supervisor saying, well, I want you to take your break from 4 to 4:15 and you leave at 4:30. I mean, I don't think they would, but again, I want this handbook to protect employees from poor treatment by supervisors,
Yep.
not just to give the district universal.
Just so I'm clear, so if the word lunch was taken out of there,
Well,
because that
I
was
didn't
added-
really like it before, but I guess I probably had bigger fish to fry in our handbook discussion.
so you prefer that the supervisor shouldn't adjust the
I would
lunch
think it
or
would
the
have to
break?
be a big deal. I mean,
Okay.
I would hold cooperatively, right? I mean, when I was
And that's what they do
But-
it, I think.
Yeah, and I think and that's part of the language we discussed this morning, Andrew, and you're right on in terms of a supervisor could not arbitrarily make that decision in isolation, and that's the language we started moving toward, to see if there's a consultation and approval process. So maybe we need to increase that if it's a significant variation from what's typically done. There may be a specific time or department that has to have a little bit different going on because of the needs of students. But then we talked about, I mean, that has to go into BITEC. It's part of the whole system, so it would be the anomaly and not the rule. And people would know. That's the other part. People have to know this because it's in the time clock. So you would see it, and that was part of the whole piece behind that. But we can certainly, as we're working to tweak that language, we can certainly do that as well.
One of the things that
I just need to interrupt. I really don't understand the lack of faith or trust in supervisory staff, or to think that they're going to be so picky about it. Picky isn't even the right word. So small about adjusting people's schedule to be spiteful. The times that schedules have to be adjusted, and you're right, that has been in there before, are generally because of the needs of the students, the needs of the schedule, and it's not done lightly. Putting these schedules together is not easy, even at a small school. So changing people's lunch breaks or their 15-minute break is not taken lightly, and it's not going to be done out of spite.
And I guess to that I would say if we were in a situation where we cloned you and put you into every seat, or Dr. Wagner or Dr. Langenfeld, you know, I'm not even, and there's a lot of levels of supervision of people who haven't risen to the level of principal in their career and earned that. There are lower level supervisors, and I'm saying that there, you know, is there going to be, are we in a situation where out of more than 100, you know, a couple hundred people with supervisory duties, that none of them would be mean-spirited ever? I mean, that's a tall order when there's hundreds of people that could do that.
I'm speaking to this issue specifically, Andrew, and I don't dispute what you're saying as far as people in supervisory positions can come across in that manner to people, and you know, that may happen. But with this particular issue with scheduling lunch breaks and scheduling the 15-minute breaks, I know that it's done, and it's not done lightly, and you know, it's not something that's new, as was said. We've been doing it for years, you know, and I realize that, you know, if I'm comfortable with a particular schedule and it has to be adjusted, and I'm not comfortable with that, it creates some stress and anxiety. But sometimes those things have to happen, and I think about where it probably happen more often than not is when we would have students with special needs who, because of toileting needs or feeding needs or what have you, and schedules changing that way, we've had to change paraprofessional schedules around, and people have been very good about that.
And again, like I said, I'm not worried about you doing it. I'm not worried about you doing it. But I'm not going to. But I could talk about a range of spiteful things done by people who don't work here now. I'm not going to name names, but I think there have been people who have been spiteful in the past. I want to protect.
Let me interrupt if I may. We're starting to beat a dead horse. I'm from Indiana. I agree with both of you down there.
We'll work on the language.
Superintendent hears you.
We'll work on it.
What I want to be careful of is the situations, and I like to think it wouldn't occur, but if we have two special education paras, Andrew and Ed, and Andrew all of a sudden goes home ill, I need coverage. Those kids need coverage, so Ed's not going to have break.
Right, and I think part of the language that we're talking about is a permanent change, not a variation, because we thought variation was not flexible enough. We're talking about a permanent, so that I decide, you know what, you need to be in there till 2:35 before you can have lunch. That's a change in the thing, not just help me out here and let's all support the children.
And Chris, maybe Ed and probably Ed and I, without even necessarily bothering you with it, just make the breaks work out between ourselves, because I missed one today. Probably without even bothering you, and I get that that's gonna happen almost all the time. I just like, you know, goes back, when there was a contract, there were parts that were good, there were parts that maybe weren't great, but there were rules. That's all I'm saying.
Well, my final comment, then I'm gonna ask them to move on. We gotta just get moving here. As you mentioned, Mr. Becker, when you have a lot of people, there's no such thing as everybody being perfect. Quite frankly, there's no such thing as perfect language either. We have to do the best we can, and if we have problems with it as time goes on, we change it. So what do we have next? What page next?
All right, we move ahead to page 25. And this language here is the same language. Go up a little right here. The blue language is the language that was in conditions of non-paid leave that struck out. And what we recognize is that when we have people who employees are asking for long-term non-paid leaves, child rearing leave on those requests has always been, the first year has been job protected. And that language that was in the bottom piece that struck out says that the position would be job protected. Under other conditions, or the conditions of non-paid leave, not all those positions will be job protected depending on the type of leave that the employee is asking for. And we have a new form that's developed, the non-FMLA non-paid leave request form that allows us to meet and have a conversation about those other long-term leaves. So this really only moves the language that says what we've always done, which is protect a position of record under child rearing leave, and then allows us to have some conversation about whether or not we would want job protect depending on the kind of leave under the conditions of non-paid leave. Any questions regarding the movement of that up into the child rearing leave? Okay. Then, if we go forward to page 26, the next page, we had a line in here under benefits during probation that says that all the provisions apply on first day of employment. Well, everything in the handbook applies throughout the entire handbook on the first day of employment. And why it was ever put in just that one section is I can't explain. So we're just striking that out with the understanding that the handbook applies to all employees on day one. Any questions about that? Then page 29. Again, just to support, there you go, just to support how important it is that employees clock in and out with accuracy, we added to our area here that talks about the accuracy and documentation. So time report is now added to that piece as well. Page 35, we just one clarification under employee identification badge. We simply added ID badge so we can reference that throughout the handbook without writing out the employee identification badges. That's just a clarification piece. After that, if you go forward to page 60, the only thing that you'll see from 60 to 69 are those areas that are in part 3 that are being struck out because they've either been rewritten and pushed forward up into section part 1, or they're just not going to be used any longer. And this is where you see the language that talks about the different breaks for different groups, all those things. So that's what you see in the last piece here, are all those sections that we're bringing forward, striking out because we're writing new language, or we've moved it forward, and I pointed out where we moved part 3 sections up into part 1. Any questions or clarifications that you need at this point in time? What we'll do is we'll take feedback from you and bring that to our discussions and bring that forward to the next meeting. So we welcome any kind of feedback you would have outside of the meeting tonight. If you have it, please contact Gene or me, and we will start to have those conversations about what that would look like.
So we would not move this forward. We're
No.
going to have another kick at the cat next month.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was our plan. You know, if the board would have been ready at the next meeting, we would be good to go, but if we need, that was our plan.
We could actually, if there's some edits to this, we could bring it forward with the next board meeting, and if you wish to approve it with the
And you
edits,
could, but
If
otherwise
not,
we
you
can,
could.
this is not
ask-
we're trying to get it in place for
Yes.
July 1.
And can we just pull this out if we need to and approve the rest of it?
Yes.
Yeah,
We,
okay.
yeah,
Yes,
we
that could
talked
be too,
about that
sure.
as a possibility too earlier today, so. If that was the sticking point, we could always bring that back too. Yep, good question.
That's all we have.
All right, thanks, Chris. We do have a special board or a closed session. has been scheduled for Monday, May 4th, immediately following the work session meetings.
Good thing.
Pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which if discussed in public would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations, to wit, personnel matters. Pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 9.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, more specifically to wit, potential contracts. And pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, to wit, potential litigation matters. The meeting will begin in open session to consider the appropriate motion for a closed session so provided by law.
So moved. Second.
Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
Becca?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Jeffries? Maloney? Wagner? Warren?
Aye. Carried 7-0. We'll move across the hall.
What's your tomorrow?